Hi everyone, today's video is all about ethical investing. Essentially, ethical investing is something people don't really think about until they directly get asked about it. So it's one thing we establish quite early on in our advice process when we're establishing someone's attitude to risk. So the risk level they'd be happy to take with their money. People don't tend to think about it, although they might actually want to do ethical investing. For some reason, they don't think it relates to money and how they should be investing it. So it's really important to establish that before you do anything else in terms of fund research and establishing what their portfolio should look like. Ethical investing can be called several different things, but it's most commonly known as SRI or ESG, socially responsible investing, or environmental, social and governance. They do both mean the same thing. ESG has come to the front more recently. It just has slightly different terminology and slightly different meanings to it than SRI, but essentially they all come under the same umbrella of ethical investing. But what is ethical investing? Really, it comes down to what you want to invest in or what you don't want to invest in. So are you really keen to invest in things such as solar power or wind farms or renewable energy, green energy, all those sorts of things? Or would you prefer not to invest in certain things such as tobacco, armaments, alcohol? If there is anything in particular that you really don't want to invest in, then you must make sure you flag that up with your advisor before you go any further so they can make sure you don't include those elements in your investment portfolio. If you don't tell them, they won't know to exclude it or to include it. So it's really important that you bring that up quite early on. Each fund deals with socially responsible investing or ESG investing in a slightly different way. So it's important to make sure you read the key features document of each fund to make sure how they're addressing or how they're approaching their particular mandate of ethical investing. Are they including or excluding certain things? Do they only have a mandate that says only a proportion of their portfolio has to include certain amounts of certain things or not? They might say they will only invest in certain areas or only exclude certain areas, etc., etc. So it's really important to make sure that you're happy with each individual fund that you're investing in and how that is meeting your requirement for ethical investing. But that's something your advisor should be doing, and they should be showing you and demonstrating how they're meeting your objective. So if they're not, then definitely have a word with them about that, or perhaps seek a second opinion. Ethical investing is one of the non-financial aspects of investing. So as I said earlier, many people just think of money and investments and where it's going to get you and how it's going to achieve that, without thinking of what you could do to change where your money is and how it's helping the world and how it's helping the environment. Also along that lines is behavioural investing. So really that's to do with maybe how you've handled money in the past and how it's impacted your decisions moving forward in the future, or perhaps how family members have handled money in a good or bad way and how that's impacted you without even really considering it. But non-financial factors do actually have quite a big impact on what you want to do with your money. These days, ethical investing is really at the forefront of investment portfolios. A lot of fund managers are really pushing certain aspects of ethical investing, and there are certain key fund managers who are really making it their mandate to only do ethical investing, or certainly to really push some of their key ethical funds, because they know that it's really important in this day and age, and that a lot of people, especially millennials actually, a lot of millennials really want to help the environment and do what they can to try and create a positive impact on the environment and on the world in general. And this is one way to do that with your money, which is an area people don't tend to think about. Certainly in recent years, I've had a lot of people say to me they would rather include some form of SRI or ESG investment in their portfolio. It really doesn't impact on the returns you can get, and this is something else that's really important. In the past, people thought that if you wanted ethical investments, you would be sacrificing some returns on your money, but really that's not the case. Certainly I've seen some really great performing funds in recent years that have outperformed non-ethical investments, and I've managed to create some really great ethical portfolios who've shown some really impressive performance. So it doesn't mean anymore that you have to sacrifice anything to get an ethical portfolio put together. You can still achieve some great returns, and so there's really no reason that you shouldn't think about whether you want to include that in your portfolio. You don't have to include ethical investments everywhere. You might want to just have one particular fund or one particular investment that has that exposure. But if you do want to, you can have ethical investments across the board. But if that's something you're passionate about, do let your advisor know. This is probably particularly important for a workplace pension. Generally, workplace pensions only have a limited fund choice, but if ethical investing is important to you, it's important to check where you are invested at the moment and to ask your employer if you can find out what other fund options are available to you. Most pension administrators should have the option for some form of ethical investment, so do check that out and ask if you want to make a fund switch. That's all for today, guys. I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions about SRI or ESG investing, just let me know, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you in next month's one.